Hello, and welcome to the Watering Hole Coaching Podcast. My name is Mark Dunwoody, and the Watering Hole Coaching Podcast is hosted by myself and Brian Russell here, and it's a space where coaches convene to learn, grow, and exchange wisdom. With decades of coaching experience between us, working with individuals and organizations worldwide, Brian and myself are here to guide you through a change in your life and your leadership role.
This podcast isn't just a gathering place. It's an incubator of ideas and a melting pot of diverse perspectives. Together, we foster a sense of community and shared culture, recognizing its power to drive innovation and nurture a coaching mindset. Through our conversations together and our shared experiences, we aim and hope to inspire and empower you to reach new heights in your coaching practice. So come on board and let's embark on this journey of growth and enlightenment together. And today we're going to talk about what Mark and I like to think of as self-leadership and really a self-leadership check-in. This became important to me a few years ago when my wife and I were celebrating our 10th anniversary of actually meeting. That was such a great day for us. And so we were on our 10th anniversary date. So I was trying to be romantic. So we had created this really great dinner date, which went well. And then to add a little final touch, I kind of surprised my wife by taking her to the place we actually met, which was just a little coffee shop. It was a Panera Bread in Orlando, Florida. But as you might expect, something kind of went awry to my wonderful plan, Mark. I get to the Panera, and number one, I had timed it out perfect. So I was literally there to almost the second when we first saw each other in person.
Wow.
Except when I get there, the Panera Bread is closed for remodeling, which was kind of funny. I didn't check on that. And then even worse, as I pulled in, our Honda, the tire pressure light goes off on the dash, which means, oh no, I think I have a flat tire. Because I've had other cars, that light goes off, your tire is gone probably. So I'm thinking, well, there goes my romantic evening. I'm going to have to mess with a flat tire, maybe have to get a tow truck. And so I get out of the car and I just do a quick walk around and I'm like, I can't even tell which tire's low. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to drive to a gas station. So I get to a gas station, go to an air pump and I get the air gauge out and I'm going around. And what was really funny is all I can figure is like one tire was literally only down maybe 3 or 4 pounds from where it was supposed to be. But, and this is where the coaching insight came in, my car was so sensitive that
Yeah.
even a slight loss of pressure, I have a gauge warning me way in advance of actually having a full-blown flat tire. And I immediately thought, like, do I have that sort of a gauge in my own life?
Yeah.
And then, and as a coaching perspective, then what would be a check-in that I could run through a list of areas, and if I was self-aware enough and honest enough, or I had a coach asking me about this, which is what I'm really getting at, I would have the ability to make course corrections well in advance of having some leadership blow up, creating a problem with an individual just because maybe I'm not enough self-aware that I say the wrong thing. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about today. And I'm going to suggest, and I'm going to get your thoughts on this, that there's probably 5 areas that you can do a sort of a literal kind of a check engine light on yourself. And the top 3 really support the bottom 2 the most. So I would say, how are you doing with your time? Like, how is your time management right now? What's your calendar look like? How well are you doing with your energy? Do we have energy to do
Yeah.
the things that we need to do? And the third thing was like, how are we doing emotionally? And in particular, I'm talking about how well are you able to manage your emotions in the face of complexity, uncertainty, and sort of the chaos that we often find ourselves in the 21st century.
Yeah.
And if you don't get those top 3 right, it becomes increasingly difficult then to use words well, because we know the mouth can both tear down and build up. It can be really empowering, or it can be actually the opposite, disempowering, if we select the wrong words, let alone the fifth area would be how well am I wielding power? And when we talk about power on this podcast, I'm not talking about being a dictator. If you want to talk about servant leadership, that's fine, but really just exercising power as a leader to influence others in ways that are good for our business,
Mhm.
good for ourselves, ultimately good for the folks that work with us, and even bigger, good for the world in general. So that's what I mean by kind of a check-in, and we can kind of walk through those. But what do you think about that, Mark? And what might you add as some things that we can check in on to build that check engine light?
Yeah, I love that. I love the car analogy. Like I could talk about car analogies all day. You know as well when if you're driving fast, you shouldn't be driving fast, but if you were driving fast, and racing car drivers would tell you this, that if you come into a corner, you speed up, or sorry, you get the car control going into the corner and you speed out of the corner. So your car's in control as you go in the corner, and then you put the foot down. You don't brake on the corner. And just there's part of that for me. I think that with sorting yourself out, you really need to make sure you're in good shape before you need to hit the corner, before things start happening. And you see the consequence of many people I would work with in burnout, if they had a tire check, 6 months, a year before, things would have been very different in their life. If they were controlled, if their life was in more control with the stuff that you're saying around these areas, they might have not had the outcomes. So when you're running in full revs all the time, and we know it, we've seen it. Like I've been in boardrooms where people rush in with folders and they rush out, and I'm staring at them and I'm thinking, what way is that to live your life? What way is that to lead an organization? And I've been in boardrooms where people, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. What message does that send to people in your organization and you're leading if you're so busy all the time? So there's something that you need to be self-checking. And as you talk about emotional, it just hits me about emotional intelligence, being aware of your own emotions and the emotions of others. So yeah, I'm looking forward to unpacking this with you today. It's exciting.
Yeah, and most of the time when we see leaders fail, it's in something that they say or some act of actual leadership. So obviously those are the places where the light really goes off fast.
Yeah.
But if you listen to even the metaphor, even what you said, it's somebody crashing coming out of the corner that's pretty obvious, because most people I don't think crash going into the corner. They'll
Oh,
lose control somewhere in the corner. That would be using our words
yeah.
or using power incorrectly. But again, I love the race. I love racing too, of both what I call it, street racing, or the circuit racing, or even just like over here in the United States, they have good old NASCAR where it's all right turns
I
or
was
all
thinking
left
that.
turns. I got to get it right, all left
That's,
turns.
that's just not to confuse Americans, isn't it? You don't want any left turns there to confuse you guys.
but
Yeah.
but it's so good. So like like time, we can just kind of walk through these a little bit. When you're working with someone, what are signs other than literally the person just saying I'm always busy? Like, what do you look for time wise for how a person manages time? And obviously there are seasons where you can be extremely busy. The problem ends up being if it's every season you're extremely busy. So like what are some would be for you some signs of a person struggling in their mastery of time?
Yeah. I think it's interesting, isn't it? We all have the same time in the day. We
Yeah.
all have the same time. And we get choice then how to use that time. And I think we make time for what gives us energy. We make time for what we love to do. And we basically we spend our money and we spend our time and our values, what we value. So for me, it comes down when you unpack it. We're having this in a 30-second conversation. This could take 6 months for someone to figure out.
Yeah.
You spend your time doing what you value. It's a values conversation that you're having. You need to have with yourself, and you need to be figuring out, are these values your values that you want to live with for the rest of your life? Or have these values been imposed on you by someone else? In leadership, sometimes there's a value that you sort of have to look busy, you sort of have to know what you're doing. Um, who says that? Where are you getting that from? And there's a useful analogy called HALT, HALT. and it's I think there's a TED talk on it. I heard about it. Basically, it's risk management guys use it, and they found in I think it was the UK that there was loads of accidents happening in the in the National Health Service. And they done a survey to see why were these accidents happening, or what was going on when these accidents are happening. And there was four things always apparent. People were hungry, they were angry, they were late, and they were tired. So rather than focus on what was actually happened, what they did was they took employees to try and reduce the fact that, some medical staff don't get a cup of coffee for 8 hours, that they're getting their meals. You know, they're trying to make their working environment better, that they're not being angry, they're being emotional. They're trying to figure systems out that people aren't late, doctors aren't just rushing in to make quick decisions. And they're trying to figure out, well, maybe how can people be less tired? So when they found that people weren't as hungry, angry, late, or tired, the statistics changed. Things changed in what was going on. So that's one thing that using our time, and I use that for myself as well, because I do 100 different things, but thankfully they all give me energy. But when I find that my time, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed with time, or I'm working with people who feel a bit over in time, I'll go back to that. Well, are you hungry, angry, late, or tired? Is this playing in what you're doing? And yourself, sometimes you just need to lie down and take a minute or two, or try and take a day off, or just take a bit of space. But yeah, time is there for everybody, and there's a myriad of time management tools that you can Google now. If you find that you're someone who struggles with time, you probably just need to take ownership and say, right. And again, it's coaching. Coaching always is in the premise that something can improve. So if you find yourself that you haven't time for this, you haven't time for that, you start switching your mindset to think, well, actually, I can improve this. I can change this. This can get better. That helps.
It's good. I'm going to guess we're probably going to do a whole episode at some point on time. I'll just add one more piece. I love the HALT piece, and
Yeah.
some of the folks in the United States, it's maybe true worldwide. They'll find that acronym also is found in the 12-step recovery stuff, where they assume everybody's
Yeah.
hungry or hurt, angry, and they throw in lonely instead of the late. But I love the late thing and tired. So that's really cool. And I love the connection to values, because that's always going to be something that we'll come back to on this podcast. And I guess we'll do an episode on how to coach people around values, because if you get people to focus on centering their work life on their values, you tend not to have a lot of the problems that we're talking about. And I'll just throw one little hack in on the time stuff. I think it's super important um, to have margin in your calendar, because too many of us, we think we're so busy, because a lot of times we just stack things together. A simple trick, because everybody knows meetings never end when they're supposed to, and then you think you can go to another meeting. It's like at minimum, and this could instantly help somebody find a little margin on their time. It's just make sure you put 15 to 30 minutes minimum
Yeah.
in between your different appointments, simply so you have time to do exactly what Mark just said, to catch your breath, chill out, let alone if you're running over, you still have that time. So that's a good one. What about energy? I'll jump into this one.
Yeah. Go for it.
Because energy, and these are all related. I mean, energy, time, and emotions, all this is going to sort of run together, because if you
Yes.
start messing up with one of these areas, it just snowballs. But the energy thing is the hard thing. We were just teasing, we're on a time difference here. I'm in the United States, Mark is in Northern Ireland, so it's right now I'm recording in the morning, it's middle or late afternoon for Mark already, so he's had a full day, I'm just getting started. So, and I'm a morning person, so you're all catching me literally at my very best time. Mark's been doing CrossFit and everything.
I'm
So
busted. Yeah.
yeah. So we noticed that, right? And so one of the critical things about energy is recognizing when your best time of the day is for your most important task that you're doing, and schedule that time and make it untouchable except for that thing that you need to do. That's probably the fundamental trick on energy, because as you get older, again, when you're probably in your 20s and 30s, you're thinking, what are you guys talking about? Well, as you get into your 40s, 50s, and up, energy becomes even more important commodity. You're just as effective. In some ways, we're wiser as we get older. We know more stuff and we can get things done probably more efficiently, but there's less energy. So we can't do it the whole day. So you learn that you need to focus, become a master of your energy by reserving and literally scheduling your work around when you're the most effective. Again, we can say more, but I'm going to turn it over to Mark. Like, what's your take on energy management, Mark?
Energy is everything for me.
Yeah,
I think as you get, I remember I did jiu-jitsu years ago. Jiu-jitsu, like martial
yeah.
art. Jiu-jitsu is a really interesting martial art because you use other people's energy for your self-defense. So you could be a really slight person with not too much strength and really be able to overcome someone quite heavier than you. And you do that by I think the term's their G, reflecting their G somewhere else, their energy. So you take the energy of someone trying to smack you and you stand to the side of it and their energy goes past you. And there's something about energy for me of how you use energy in your life and the people that you lead as well, and where that energy comes from. And then as a human being, what energy you create in the world. We all have force fields, we're full of energy. We who is it? I can't remember who it is. He says that we all bring something into the room and we all leave something. Remember who that
I'm
is?
not sure who that is. Yeah.
I don't know if it's Coveney. But so energy is really interesting for me. And when I lead as well, I always look at where the energy is. I think it's a lot more easier leading out of where the energy is than trying to put your energy and your goals and dreams on other people. But yeah, I find it changes for me now. A few years ago, I don't do anything that doesn't energize me. I just don't. I just don't. And I really felt that part of me, if I was going to coach people and lead people to try and have that narrative and perspective in their life, I had to be authentic and live it out myself. So for energy as well, you do need to ask yourself if you have relationships that drain your energy, emotional vampires, why are you there? Like, why are you in those relationships? If your job sucks, why are you in it? you know. And again, we'll keep coming back and back. It's the refusal of the call. It's a refusing for you to accept something. So energy is so important. If you know yourself, there's people in your life, if you're listening to this day, that give you energy, and you're like, oh my gosh, you could hang out with that person for an hour and it feels like 5 minutes. You know, those are the people you want to surround yourself with. There's tasks and skills and roles that just give you energy you love to do. The creativity that you're full of. Live into that energy. And I try and work at that myself. And you know, I think part of coaching, when you coach people, one of the things, I don't know if you find this, Brian, but within a few months, people usually start to think about changing their jobs or careers. Because
True.
I like it's a surprise. I'd never say that, but they're like that because they're starting to understand they actually in control of their lives. Because they're thinking, oh, actually, I can start to reposition the energy that I'm bringing into the world to something that that will help me be more purposeful for who I am. So energy is everything. We bring an energy into the room, we leave an energy. We're in environments where energy can be added to or it can be taken away from our lives. And for me, myself, I've turned in a morning person. I was an evening person for years and years. I'm a morning person now. I think that's because I'm talking to Australia so much at the minute. I'm up at like 6 in the morning. Uh, but yeah, I'm full of energy in the morning. But yeah, and also just lastly, um, and I'd love you to add to this, like as you said, do your best work when you're full of energy. I really struggle with doing details and admin. I just don't like it. I just don't like detail. I'm not a detail person. A nightmare to be around if you want details. And I don't like admin. So when I'm feeling really energetic and I'm aware of myself that I have loads of energy, I'll get those tasks out of the way. So again, there's something there, isn't there, about um your tasks and the way that you live your life in terms of your energy and your body energy at that time.
Yeah, so good. And and just you just named something really important. So like business people that are listening to this or folks that have teams, one of the biggest traps that an entrepreneur runs into, and you can think of it almost as being on the hamster wheel, is you get trapped in your business and you never get to step back and
Mm.
actually become the owner of your business, which doesn't mean you're not working, because you are. But there's nothing that drains your energy more than literally being the micromanaging technocrat that thinks they have to do everything. And sometimes it's simply a matter of training somebody on your team. It's raising your team's level up, which takes an initial investment. But when you do that, you're going to get paid back with energy because you're able to let go of, hopefully, every quarter, you can let go of something, quarter in the year, let go of something that is literally draining you, and giving that to somebody that actually loves to do it, that gets energized by the thing that drains you. So this is obviously an invitation to team building. I'd also say, you mentioned people, super important also energy wise. And this is just gets back to what I would call just basic fundamentals. Make sure your diet is adequate to fuel your body, and a little exercise helps, and make sure you get sleep. Those are three easy things that you can do
Yeah.
regardless of where you are in the process. Because again, if you're just starting your business, you're grinding a lot of times, and you have to put the time in because you don't have the resources to hire the team yet, but you can still do energy check-ins on the things that you can control. Yeah.
Yeah.
And should we go on to the complexity thing and the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
emotional stuff, Mark? Yeah, and again, these all build on each other. But again, the hardest thing in any kind of a business is you're creating something from scratch, and
Yeah.
you have, in control is always an illusion. But when you're an entrepreneur, you recognize that things are out of control, in a sense that you always have to, am I going to be able to get somebody to buy my product?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is the marketing going to work? Is my team going to show up that day? There's all kinds of things that are just make our lives complicated. There's uncertainty, maybe even some chaos sometimes. And the difference between somebody that ultimately thrives and flourishes and somebody that doesn't is going to be, what is my capacity emotionally to deal with what it feels like, not on good days, because we all know it. Everybody's awesome on a good day.
Yeah.
It's, what can I get out of the neutral day, or even the bad day when things don't go right? And that's going to come back at some level to my ability to deal with uncertainty and complexity from an emotional perspective. And again, our time, our energy is going to play into that. But like, what are practices that you do to actually expand your ability to deal with complexity? I'm going to let you jump in, Mark, and then I'll add
Yeah.
a couple things at the end on that. Yeah.
Well, there's a few things that I can think of. On a human level, we live our lives between our ears. It's just good to know that we live our lives where that construct of your life is between your ears. You've constructed it, you know. And sometimes life is crap. Sometimes days are overwhelming. And if you can, turn the computer off, go and watch Netflix. Just take a break. Tomorrow's a new day. It's going to be okay. You've woke up breathing. If you wake up breathing, you're okay. You're a lot better forward than a lot of people in the world who haven't made it through the night. You know, it's no accident that you were born. The odds of you even being on this planet is incredible. The odds of this planet existing is incredible. So we are blessed. We are blessed that we can breathe and wake up every day. So keep that perspective. There's something about gratitude and gratefulness and understanding when you're tired, as we would say, when you're knackered, just be kind to yourself. Just be kind. It's coming more and more into the fore in the workplace and different environments, the importance of kindness, but that self-kindness is important. Just be kind to yourself. Next disappointment is only really an expectation that's been projected in the future, that hasn't worked out the way you thought it would be. You don't know what's round the corner. So be kind. And I'm saying this like I've had to do it myself. We have both wrote books. I think writing books is one of the hardest, most dejecting things because sometimes you sit down and you try and do something. I know about you, Brian, but it's like I've wrote 10 words in 2 hours and then I'm full of self-doubt. My life's falling apart and I shouldn't even be doing it. You're like, just take time out. Just take time out. So that's the kindness. Take time out. Um, there's a reason why emotional intelligence now is in the top 10 work skills in the world, and we've talked about it already today. That ability to acknowledge your own emotions, you know. If you're hungry, angry, late, and tired, if you're feeling those things, those probably aren't the best times for you to be making decisions about your business, about your church, whatever it's going to be. They're just not. Cancel that meeting, get out of it. If take yourself away, that you're going to not let those emotions affect who you are. And also, that it's funny how they all tie in about energy. I just think exercise is an incredible thing as well, isn't it? About your emotional state. If you can just exercise a lot more, it really helps your emotional state. So emotions is who we are. It's how we're made up. It's what makes us different in our brain. Yes, we need to have negative emotions. We need to feel fear sometimes, and we need to be in reality sometimes because something might go wrong. But we need to balance that with empathy, with possibility, with curiosity, and everything else. And I suppose one of the things that I do, I just read a lot on the brain, on brain science,
Yes.
on emotions. I'm like yourself. I'm really uh, a student of the contemplative movement as well. So I'll read poetry if I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed and so on. I'll just do something different with my brain. So if say you're doing something, you're feeling, oh, this is dragging me down today, or I'm feeling this, get your brain to do something that's just complete opposite from what you're doing. Try that. And I remember reading about it years ago, and it is a hack. It's a hack to, if you're doing something, say, people's driving you crazy or whatever, or process or admin or something, go and read some poetry, listen to some music. Something happens with you. Your emotions change, hug your kids, do whatever do something, um, do something for people that can't help you back. Do something that's just completely different, and your mindset will change.
So good. And, one of the things you're describing there really is one of the ways to deal with complexity is it's essentially learning to change what you're focusing on.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins always has that saying. You hear lots of people say it. It's something like where focus goes, energy flows. And when we run into complexity, uncertainty, you named it also, we respond with fear.
Yeah.
So our focus instantly becomes on maybe worst case scenarios or what's going to happen. I mean, I know I'm a professional, hyper vigilant person. So like I can worry. I always tell everybody in my family, nobody has to worry because I've already worried 1,000 times more than anybody else. And I've learned how to kind of hack into that. And one of the realities is what I've noticed as I've studied fear, and this may help somebody listening today, because most people feel isolated in fear, but the reality is fear is normal. And
Yeah.
every single person you meet, even the most confident person, even the person who's most courageous, it's not that they're not afraid.
Mm.
It's that they've learned how to deal with the fear and shifted their focus to something else. And I mean, I love how you named simple things that we can do. I mean, you can even just take deep breaths, and there's something calming about just breath. And I'm not even talking about meditation or centering prayer or anything, or some of the things that I use. You can just learn to breathe
Yeah.
deeply. One of the things that helped me when I was going through a real crisis in my life is I learned that the U.S. Special Forces guys, especially the Navy SEALs, and these are pretty tough guys, always dealing with massive uncertainty. They use a simple breathing pattern while they're doing their work. They'll breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, release it for 4 seconds, wait 4 seconds, and they do this box breathing. And everybody at home could do this right now. Just
Yeah.
experiment with a little box breathing pattern. And what that literally does is it hacks your emotional system. So you could do that anytime.
Yeah.
Anything that we can do to sort of pull ourselves out of, because what's fear? Fear is you're projecting into the future some negative thing that hasn't even happened yet, that's just possible. And
Yeah.
it could be a 1% possibility. And obviously, if you're about to be bitten by a shark on a surfboard, then maybe the fear is a little higher, but most of the things we're afraid of never happen. I don't know about you, Mark. I've survived, I don't know, a million things that were really bad because they never actually happened. I just had imagined them. So fear, it's normal. And here's something else I've learned. The the pain of that feeling of weakness that you get from letting fear overwhelm you is massively worse than the limited discomfort of stepping in to that emotional fear and just acting anyway. And that becomes a muscle that gets easier. So again, the idea is doing the scary thing is actually easier than sitting back and being and experiencing that paralyzing weakness, shame feeling that comes from not stepping into it. And so that's like a muscle that we can work on there. So yeah, emotions. I mean, that's everything. So time, energy, emotions. Again, if you don't get those things right, it becomes increasingly difficult to use our words in ways that empower people or allow us, if you're a salesperson, to sell without looking desperate to the person you're speaking with, let alone actually wielding any kind of authority over other people. So kind of we can sort of wrap this up, or we could tie this in. What do you think about those last two things when you think of words and power, Mark?
Um,
As
Words,
the byproduct of time, energy,
yeah,
emotions. Yeah.
the words that we say to ourselves and others is so powerful. Those words are so powerful. Um, you know, one word I learned from you a few years ago, you use even a lot more. So we can get even better at this. We can do even more. We can learn more, even more. And using that word even, I read in the book, you find it in many different places, using the word and instead of but. So and joins, but separates. So um so I had a terrible day, you know, or sorry, things went well, but I don't know what's going to happen. You know, things went well and I don't know what's going to happen. And I've noticed that if you can use that word and instead of but, that is a real hack as well. Because you can start ch changing the sentences, you can start changing the narrative for your organization, you can start changing it. Um, the way you speak to yourself. You can also, I've noticed in the past, I use it a lot, so I can then hear people saying it back to me. And we're going to try this. You know, we've tried this in the past, and we're going to try this as well. You know, so so the words have power, and they have so much power now. They've just so much power, and it's the words we talk to ourselves, um, and just like tying in with the whole theme. You know, there's something as well about even saying to yourself, if something does say something does knock you off center, will this matter in a week's time? Will this matter in a month's time? And I'm sure most stuff that is really knocking you off won't matter. You know, if someone cuts you off in traffic and you're ready for road rage, will that matter? No. So even saying those words, well, this matter, this jerk has cut me off. No, it won't. You know. And again, if you're someone who loves change and you're leading change and you're doing something different, I think if you're not, you probably don't want to be listening to this podcast. If you think everything's okay, you don't want to be listening. But if you're thinking something's different, people are not going to get you. They are not going to get you. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a church planter, you're someone, people will not get you because you're going to disrupt something that's already there. You're going to disrupt all these people's values and all these systems that they hold on to. So, so you are going to need this stuff that we're talking about today. This is going to keep you going, you know. And your words that you tell yourself, that you speak to other people, really matter. They really, really matter. What do you think about power then?
Yeah, and yeah, power. And I like what John Maxwell always says, that leadership is influence. And I've noticed in my own, as I've been dean, been a pastor, been a provost, associate provost. I've had power, and I've noticed on the days when I've done the practice as well, and I'm in a good place, it gets really easy to be, because collaborative,
Yeah.
it gets easy to take feedback. It even gets easier to have difficult conversations. But if I am in a negative place and I have any challenges, I know for myself personally, it's easy to slide into I'm the smartest guy in the room, dictator mode, where I just tell people what to do instead of inviting them to be part of a process and making sure they're ready. And so to me, this self leadership up front, so that I have, for the most important tasks, I'm literally prepared.
Yeah, yeah,
I've prepared words. And again, you named just some fun little words, even, and I'd even throw yet in there, right? I'm not
yeah,
good at this
yeah,
yet.
yeah,
I mean, though that just takes intentionality. And so I can be intentional and I can be fully present if I get time, energy, and my emotions right. And then, in a sense, the proper use of whatever authority we have, whether we're a business owner or have some position in a hierarchy, it gets a lot easier to actually have to wield power, not positionally, but because people actually respect you for the person that you are and you're becoming, and then it flows out of our values. So that's what I would say. All this stuff leads to us being in a position where we can lead well. And then when I can go home at night, I can be proud of the man I see in the mirror
yeah,
and the people that I work with are mostly going to have legitimately decent memories about how I led, even especially in those places where perhaps they disagreed with the ultimate decision that the leader has to make. So I think that's the mark. Can you actually have difficult conversations, hard conversations, and the other person, again, even if they come out on the wrong end of that conversation, meaning, sometimes we do have to let people go. Sometimes we have to make difficult decisions that not everybody likes, but can they respect the process and how you carried yourself out on those places where it's really difficult for the other person? A lot of times we think, oh, it's going to have a hard conversation. No, the leader, it's hard for the other person.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
that's to me what real power is where I'm not worried about how hard this is for me. I want to make it as easy for the whole team as possible to hear both good news and to hear bad news.
yeah, yeah. I love that. And just to add, suppose how it might be applicable is that, I have a guy who I'm still really friendly with that I let go in Montreal. I had to, let go of him out of the role, and we're still very friendly. And the reason that we're still very friendly is because of what I'm going to unpack now. We're in a participatory age of leadership. Well, people do not need to be um, working in your organization. They don't need you leading them. They'll just go and do something else. We're in a different age. We're also in Web 3.0. So Web 3.0 is a game changer for everything now. I'd say most people I talk to don't even have a sniff if this is going on. So Web 3.0 will take away the friction of connection for people who want to start new churches, new banks, new businesses, new political organizations, whatever. The friction is disappearing because the connections is so quick and so uncomplicated. Those old ways of connection and where power was held are going. Like they're going. Like, if you look at crypto, look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin has become mainstream now through Bitcoin crypto. So if you're a church or a business or any type of organization that doesn't have a crypto wallet that people can pay you in crypto, you're behind already. And if you're listening to this, you're going to think that Mark boy's just talking a lot of nonsense. But if you listen to this in 5 years, you'll think, well, why did Mark have to say that back then? So the world has changed. It's changed. So going back to the guy, that why we're still friendly, because through that relationship with him, the role was not good for him, the job. It didn't work.
Mm.
But he knew that he could trust me. He knew that I cared for him, and he knew that I could help him. I actually helped him get another job. And I think that is the where true power is coming to play now in today's world, especially with these younger generations who are, I love it. They're rewriting everything. The younger generations do not value your institutions. You can keep your you can keep your ball. Do you remember? I think we said this before, but do you remember when we were young? And I know we always like had this rich kid that always had the money for the nice footballs. So we had to
Right,
play
right.
as football. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. So we played it. So he made all the rules of how the game would be played. Everybody's got a football now. The game's changed. It's completely changed with the internet. And if you listen to me on other platforms, you know I go on about that a lot. The game's changed. And what people want to know of you as a leader, can they trust you? Can you help them? And do you care for them?
Yeah,
And if you can
so
do
good.
those three things and you demonstrate that, you will have power that we can see in many cultural stories of ancient stories through Jesus, through people that we can admire in our lives. Probably if you think now of people that you would admire in your life with true power, that a true power over you, you know, to influence you is probably people that you knew cared for you, trusted you, and could help you. So I love that. I think we're in the democratization of everything now. You know, we're uh power is just changing. Status was assumed. You know, we've all these organizations of the world with all this pomp and ceremony and status, and it's going to be hard for them to hold on to it. We're going to see more and more movements gathering, we're seeing movement dynamics. We're seeing ways that people are mobilized in a way that, yeah, they're mobilized through relationship and the shared value of what that's going to be, for good or bad, for good or bad.
Good.
The power's more, can you trust me? Can you help me? Do you care for me?
That's so good. I think we can put a pin on this conversation. I love those last three things because that's the ultimate check-in right there. If you get your time, your energy, your ability to deal with emotions, which leads to be able to use language and power properly, then when that you ask that question, can I trust this person? Does this person care about me? Can they help me? It's going to be a yes if we can get those things right. So this is great, Mark. I appreciate you, and I've learned something just from having this conversation with you, and I hope it blesses and serves other folks too.
Me too. I've learned loads from you as always, Brian. So yeah, thanks everyone for listening, for watching. And if you need to reach out to us, give us a shout. Like and subscribe. I think you're supposed to say that after a podcast, aren't you?
Or
Like and
maybe even before or in the middle, but yeah, we
before.
got it here at the end.
I still don't know how to describe subscribe or to like, but please, if you know how to do it, do it. Yeah, appreciate it. And share it with your friends if you think it'll be of value. So thanks everyone. Have a great day. Take care.
Yes. Yep. Take care, everyone.